This is Design Nations, and we're almost at a stage where we can actually go ahead and mill out the molds that are going to make this peace coin. Now, this is the last thing I did. I made this other half of the mold, which is going to give me my peace symbol with these locator pins. What I want to look at now is how we can get this as STL files, standard tessellation language files, and place those into our post-processing software that lets us then control the milling machine. So if you don't get any of that, then don't worry, we're now going to go through it blow by blow. Let's export this as a 3D model, and I'm going to export it as an STL file. Fine quality, absolutely fine. Same place as they were before. Let's just have a look at what I'm going to call that. So I'm just going to, let's have a look, do something on my extended desktop here. I want to go to there. This was this file name here, so let's drop that in and save it as an STL file. Done. Now I'm going to open. I've already saved that, so I'm fine. I'm going to browse. I want to open mold A, and I also want to export this as a 3D STL file. Fine. And I'm going to call that mold A. Okay, absolutely awesome. Let's now have a look at a visual toolpath. And what I'm going to do here is drag and drop these files in. So we have got an STL file for mold A, and there it is. This is what I made last time, okay? One or two things I need to do here. I'm going to rotate it so that X is the short edge because I'm going to mill it in this orientation, and I'm going to rotate it again. I like to have it the proper way around there. So that's the origin. Let's have a look here. Yeah, that looks absolutely fine. I need to do a few configurations here for the milling machine we have in our workshop. So it's a Rotocam MDX40. I'm going to turn on the self-centering vice. I'm going to confirm that. Let's go next here. Everything's good there. Let's go next. Do I want a roughing? I am going to have a roughing with this because I want to basically remove most of this waste material here quickly. So let's go. Oh, I haven't got a roughing tool for this. Okay, well, you know what? Let's make one right now. Let's make a copy of that 2mm roughing. Let's specify this to be, I'll work with my 0.5mm slot drill. Okay, diameter's 0.5. Looking nice. I'm happy with that. Pass depth is going to be 4mm for the depth of the fluting. Apply, okay, and let's do a calculation. Okay, machine allowance. Okay, I'm not worried about that. And there we are. So it's going to do one pass, which is going to take off 4mm, and then leave the last millimeter left to work on. So if I zoom out here, you can see this is the starting point of the tool. Comes in, drops down, and then goes backwards and forwards, over and over again, just making a few modifications as it doesn't want to cut out these pins. Okay, let's come to the finishing tool path. This is going to be with my 1/2mm finishing tool. I'm going to cut it along the Y because Y is the long length. It's going to be fractionally faster. Let that process. And now what I can see, there we go. Again, it moves from the origin, comes in, and if I zoom in on this, I can see, well, let's just try and scale it a bit better. If I zoom in, each of these blue lines represents a pass of the tool, and it's going to be basically thousands of passes. In fact, each pass is 0.1 of a millimeter, I believe. So as it moves into the actual cavity here, you see how the tool goes down and cuts out this band the bomb symbol. So if I come to the actual previewing here, we're doing this onto the modeling foam, and what I'm going to get here is this. I have a roughing toolpath, which is going to cut out most of the material, leaving space for the pins, and a finishing toolpath, which is then going to mill off that top face and leave me with the cavity here. And what I've just made in that video there, in that process, is this. I've got my locator pins, I've got the cavity. Notice the peace symbol is burnt in there when the pewter was poured in, and I've added in the well and the runner and the risers here manually afterwards using a Dremel and a craft knife. Okay, so that's one file ready to go. Let's just make sure that that is saved. Okay, and I'm just going to call it that, so that's fine. Okay, now let's now start a new one. Can I just drag one in? Let's have a look here. Mold B. Yep, here it is. Now notice that this one's upside down. Oops, okay. So I need to look at it from the bottom, and I want to rotate it. And again, I'm going to make it so that it's the right way around. So there we are. Now the X is at the bottom here. Now notice that the piece text here is inverse, and that's because, of course, when I actually bring the pewter model out, I'm going to be looking at it from this side. So let me just clarify what that means. Okay, this text here, which I'm going to make as a visual toolpath file, is the wrong way around. It's because then when I extrude the coin and turn it over, the text is the right way around. So that's where that comes from. Okay, it's going to be exactly the same process. Self-centering vice. Everything's good there. Continue. This doesn't need a roughing cut because in this case I don't have to remove any waste material first. Remember the previous mold, I had these locator pins, which meant that I had to remove quite a lot of this material. So I'm going to deselect roughing toolpath. Finishing is going to be the 1/2 mil diameter finishing tool along the Y. Calculate. Okay, fantastic. Again, here we can see the tool is going to come in from the origin, and then it's going to start to do thousands of vertical milling processes here, and it's going to cut down into the modeling foam to create the locator pins and to create the profile here of the disk and the text. 18 minutes that's going to take. Let's keep on going here, straight to the preview, and there's no roughing, so it's just going to do the finishing toolpath. That's what I end up with. So let's just put that into a view like so, and let's bring that across to here. Let me see, can I load up a visual toolpath as a new window? Can I drag in my other visual toolpath file? Yes, I can. Let's put this to the right. Let's see how that's going to look. Okay, and that basically shows my 2 molds ready to go. And finally, over here, that shows all the actual movements of the milling heads, and the same process there. And this is going to create, let's just put them in position on my camera, it's going to create those 2 molds right there. Voila. So that's it. We are ready now to mill these out, and then I can go ahead, add in the wells and the runners and the risers, put the 2 molds together, and cast my little pewter badge. I'm just going to show you one more thing before I sign off here, and that was the CAD file that I used to create the acrylic little colored flag there. And basically what I did, I think it's right here. Is it? It's over here. What I did was I went back to my Tixoft 2D file that I made here, and I basically calculated how many stripes I wanted to have, and I made sure, one of the things I had to do here is make sure that the acrylic stripes that come in here, they're both kind of a decent size. They're not going to be so small that they basically, disappear as tiny flecks of dust. So I wanted to make sure that this line right here, for example, was not there, because I'd have had these tiny little specks of acrylic being cut out. So that's what I did there. Then I got the contouring tool. I did some contours of these shapes. So I'll just do this very quickly. So what that allows me to do, select click, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and I can now gridlock, pull this out. Okay, so that gives me this design here, and then I can start to separate these. And then I found that when I used the laser cutter, I had to give a 0.1 mil graphical contour, and that's because the beam on the laser cutter actually has a slight thickness. Let me just change the color here to blue, which is our color code for cutting. So I did all this, boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. So if I zoom in on this, you can see there's a very slight discrepancy between my original size and my actual cutting of the beam, and that means it takes into account the thickness of the actual laser beam cutting out. And it also means as well that when I actually pushed all of these colored pieces of acrylic in, it was a tight fit. So the yellow and red little triangles down here, they were so tight there was no need for any glue whatsoever. However, these up here, they were also a nice tight fit, but I wasn't very comfortable about them being a permanent fixture. So I did actually use some tensile cement to glue it into place, which is a bit of a shame because if you have a little notice, I don't know if the video is going to show this, but there's a little bit of kind of discoloration happening here. I didn't want anything, I wanted this to be perfect. So when I put my glue on, I only glued on this face here. But nevertheless, you know, it's just taken away the edge. But I think if you don't realize it's there, it's not a problem. So there we are. That is my little peace coin finished. Pretty awesome, I think. Okay, so hope you found that good, and more chance with your own product developments. This is Design Nation signing off.